Hey, everybody. Welcome to Wormhole Manifest. Our guest tonight is none other than Crucial Chase. He's from the Crucialcore podcast and also the Scarcasm and was it Geeks Gone Raw podcast? Or the
Well,
uh,
Geeks Gone Raw is more of
like a
overarching community, I guess you would say.
oh, okay. All right. So, hey, Chase, your name has been added to the manifest. Are you ready to hit the starships left? Let the parallax flip like you showed me in the lighthouse?
Yes.
Okay.
So,
Yes.
have you seen the movie The Lighthouse? Because that's all I thought about when you said that.
No, that was actually like some hum lyrics to their song Dreamboat. Like
Oh, nice.
I always think about that. I'm like, hit the starships left, let the parallax flip like you showed me in the lighthouse. I did the math and it came out ones and O's.
Nice.
I wanted to especially have you on this show because you basically gave me the idea for the name of this podcast, which really it struck me when you said it because we were chatting in Discord and I was like, I need to come up with a cool name for this wormhole podcast. Like I want it to basically like project onto the people like what my like what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling, like what the ideas that I've been getting for so long and the things that I've like either struggled with or found ways to deal with in reality, like how I've manifested my reality. Like it kind of, when
Mm-hmm.
you said wormhole manifest, I was like, oh man. And then it gave me the idea of like a manifest is a thing that your name gets put on when you are, going on like airlines or, like your passenger number, whatever, on the manifest for this flight number, whatever. And it's like,
Yeah.
okay, so if you're going through, like, if you're going to go on a trip and you're going through the wormhole to some other, parallel universe or far away galaxy, like your name has to get put on this manifest, but also at the same time, you, what we want in life, like we can get if we manifest it, if we use our hard work and our beliefs and we believe that we can do things, you know in our minds we can manifest these things to where they become real, where they become our reality. Like if you want to, for instance, like you want to get rich, you know there's nothing stopping you from doing that. You can manifest it in your mind and make it a reality if you put in the work and make it your reality. Like anything is possible. Like, and that's what, like,
Right.
that's why when you said wormhole manifest, I was like, holy shit, that is it, man. Like, that's going to be it. That's got a whole, like, idea behind it, like a whole story kind of thing. It's part of my little universe that I live in. I'm like, that's cool, man. So I appreciate that, like coming up with the idea. And I wanted to get you on here anyway, because we've talked about a lot of stuff, music and games and all that stuff. And one of the things about the show I started that I was kind of gearing it towards was mental health, because
Mm-hmm.
I've told you before, I've dealt with a lot of like crazy shit, over the past like 5 to 10 years, and it's just been insane. And I've just recently, in the past like year and a half, 2 years, have come out of this like crazy mental haze, this fog that I was like in for so long. And thanks to people like you and like Scar and talking to more people and meeting new people over the past couple of years, like I'm starting to come out of this cave that I've been hiding in for so long. And uh and I think it's cool, and that's why I want to get out there more, and like get some of the things that I've done to relieve my anxiety and depression and things like that. And hopefully, to help others who might be dealing with some of the same things that I went through. Um, but that aside, I still want it to be a fun show, and I wanted to, you know, get into the things that we care about, and go from there. So, like, what have you been up to? Like,
Um, well, me being up to, I don't know, man. Like for one, I've listened to your podcast, and you've had some people on there that seemed very informed and had a lot of things to say, and pretty professional in how they say them. And now you have me, and just like really just tear this whole thing down, you know.
No.
You know? So yeah, just a bunch of shenanigans, you know. Every time we have a game, like me and because it's funny, me and Sam and Scar and what's his name, Scott, we all play Back for Blood, which is a new zombie game by the creators of Left 4 Dead that just come out. And Sam was streaming, so he was like, his most of his streams are normally him playing by
Yeah.
himself. And then when it was all us, it was like it's like we just he wasn't used to all the shenanigans having to rope us in. You're like, oh, okay. Because we would start like talking shit about people we know, and you're like, please don't name names, man. And like I'm live, and we're like, oh shit, because we were like just having fun riffing on each other, you know.
So he was like capturing
But
the
it's
whole thing, like all you guys, just going on a tangent about like. That's the
yeah,
thing about
but it was
streaming,
fun.
it's like you got to be like open to whoever else is on the stream with you. Like if you're gaming with a bunch of people, like that's something that I've thought about. Like I've done a few streams, and it's weird because when you're streaming a game that multiple people are playing on that you're playing with, and like they're streaming too, like it's like an inception thing, like there's, what if someone is watching my stream and they're watching your stream, but we're playing together, so they're hearing like both sides of it, but it's the same
And
thing.
then
It's like in stereo.
yeah, because actually I did a extra live stream with my buddy Fred Rojas, who's on the right now he's on the Crucialcore podcast with me, and we played Fear 3 all night. We finished the entire game in one sitting, and so both streams I had a blog at one point to where I would post my video, well, like embed them or whatnot. So I embedded both of them on the same blog post so you can watch them both at the same time. It's like a split screen,
Hmm.
which you would have to mute one of them or it would
Oh
be
man. Yeah.
terrible. So, but yeah, but it's a good time. Like, yeah, it's tough because sometimes you may have people that that might not be as what you would consider PC, and they might someone that's maybe friends with someone might drop an N bomb or whatnot, and you're like, dude, you know, I'm on stream. Like, what in the world,
Yeah.
And you're like, I didn't even know that dude over here. But so
Man, I'm gonna try streaming. Like I've done a little bit here and there, like in the over the past several years, but like the thing, like you said with Extra Life, I'm doing that again. This is my third year. The first year didn't go well at all. I didn't last very long, but I tried to follow some friends that were doing it and watch their streams as much as I could. But I just wasn't in the right headspace to be able to even, like, I was barely gaming at all back then. And then last year was the second year, and I actually did a whole 24-hour stream, and that was brutal. Like, especially when you're like in like recovery for like, like actual mental health problems, mental illness, like I was like, I'm like the whole year I was doing great, and I'm like, I'm pumped for this. I can do this.
I would love to like take an extra live stream, just a 24-hour one, and just only capture the webcam
Yeah.
and then do a time lapse of like you just like deteriorating, because you're like, hey guys, when it's when it's first
Right when it's
starting, and then
starting.
when
Yeah.
you're like,
24 hours later, you're like, oh my God, I'm barely hanging on, guys. I think I'm hallucinating. Yeah, it
yeah,
was rough. Like I even took a lot of breaks and stuff last year. Like I set up the stream to where it would run commercials, for the Extra Life like videos. Like it had like videos with stories about the kids in the children's hospitals that were like trying to raise money for it to help, like because there's tons of kids out there that need help because these medical bills don't pay themselves, and like there's a lot of kids with issues, but um and it's all unfortunate, and so that's why they started the Extra Life, and I think it's a great cause, but like the damage it's doing to some people that are just sitting there for 24 hours straight trying to play a game. Like, I'm like, oh my God, like I thought I was all pumped up to do it last year. And it was a good thing I had the breaks that I played the commercials, because I think that if anybody tunes in, not that nobody ever watches my streams anyway, because I'm not like a heavy streamer, but if they were to catch it in some way or form, like on the side, say like, what's this Wormhole guy? Like, what is he streaming? Oh, he's supposed to be playing this one game. That seems interesting. And then they go to my channel and then see that it's just playing commercials for, kid stories that are sick. It may be, they may say, oh, well, at least he has that, like he's playing these commercials, and like, but then I'm like, I'll have a message this year. I'm going to be doing that at the same time, but like, I'll be doing that this year, playing those little, it's almost like an infomercial, for like some kind of, feed the hungry kind of, like whatever. But like, um, but me and my
Yeah,
son are going to be streaming this year, so it should be a lot more actual gaming. And then when I do take the breaks, I have like a message that pops up that will say, the gaming will continue soon. Hang in there, like just watch this video about these kids we're trying to help, kind of thing, and then we can take a break and go
yeah.
to the bathroom and like eat something and whatever, and then come back. And I've got the webcam set up over my TV in the living room, and mics that reach over there, and headphones, so like I can sit on the couch. That was the thing that killed me last year, was sitting at my desk for like 6 hours straight. Like I just ended up sweating, and like my back was killing me. Um,
Well, what I did last time, and last time was 2018,
hmm.
twenty
So it's been a few years.
nineteen. Well, I've always joined the Extra Life, and I got a few donations. But the last time, it may have been, I would have to look it up, but I think it was 2019 that we did it, where Scar came over, because I liked every time the word it was really good. I actually invited friends over, and we would take turns, and it would be like kind of a party
Hmm.
versus just me just sitting by
Yeah,
myself.
that would be like a lot better situation, because you're like making something of it, and it's like like you said, like a party. Like you're actually,
Like
it's a,
sometimes we weren't even playing video games, and I just had the webcam to be the focus thing. We were sitting around eating, drinking, and joking and stuff, and I just had, the snowball just picks up everything anyway.
mm-hmm.
So yeah, but I was thinking like doing like music, but like live music, because it would be really cool to like set up things to where you could mic drums or guitars or whatnot, and it sound good
Hmm.
live. And I know that bands have done stuff like that during the pandemic,
Yeah,
but I think it'd be cool to do that outside of the pandemic, like, because even just in everyday life, you can't really get out to like go to see live music,
yeah,
but you can see live music like this happening,
it's happening now, like in your,
but you're not seeing it like in
yeah,
person, but it's still
it's
happening now.
happening
And I
now,
thought
and
that'd
it's
be a
like it's kind of virtual, like you're seeing it live, but not technically physically there in front of them, like in front of a stage. Like yeah.
right, and that might do some good people good that maybe want to see live music, that maybe they have like some social anxieties and
Oh
whatnot.
yeah.
And be like, I don't want to get out and get into the crowds and whatnot, but then they wouldn't have to, and they would probably have better seats than anybody,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, depending on how they like set up the like cameras and film the, as they do the live stream, I think that would benefit a lot of people. Like, like if even if it's like a local Um, like, what if they did it by venue? Like, if they had like a local club that has live venues like all the time, and say that like if I owned like a club, let's say for instance, like when I was younger, like 18 or 19, I used to go to this place in St. Louis called Mississippi Nights. It's done demolished and all that since then. But like,
Mississippi Night sounds like a place you don't want to
oh
be.
man, it was the place to be. Like all the local bands that were like a thing back then, like Nirvana played there, like before they were big. Like all
Hmm.
these bands that you know of have played at Mississippi Nights in St. Louis before they, got signed to record deals and whatever when they first started touring the country. Like it was a premier spot in St. Louis. And like, yeah, it sounds bad. It's like Mississippi Nights, like come on out, see the girls. But
But we had a place like that called the Brewery, and my band played there a lot. That was pretty much, if we couldn't get anywhere else, we can at least play the Brewery. But it was very small. It was very nasty.
man,
Like you didn't want to go to the bathroom there. But it was, it was our place, and it
yeah,
was there since the late 70s. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like Black Flag, like uh, Corrosion of Conformity, when they were still like a new band, were playing there, a lot, and just a lot of the like early punk rock and hardcore stuff would play there. So you had like Minor Threat and Black Flag and all that stuff. But it's like a Rite Aid now, so
yeah.
you know.
Yeah, like people nowadays don't understand, or they won't ever have that experience of going to these like dive bar kind of places that had all these bands like when, before they were anything or whatever, like they used to tour around and that's how they got famous. They toured around and they got their songs and their demo tapes played on the radio back then. And, uh, a song caught on and then it became popular. And then pretty soon their record labels are signing them and, you know, but those places that you first seen these bands, you were like, I just want to go and hang out and drink or whatever and like see a live music band. And that's what like the place I went to all the time was. And uh, it was crazy the amount of groups that I saw play there before they were like anything. Like 311 played
Hmm.
there and they played there a bunch of times. And they hadn't been signed yet, and they were playing with a St. Louis band called The Urge. And The Urge, I'm actually friends with a guy from The Urge, Steve Ewing, who uh, owns a couple businesses in St. Louis nowadays. This has already been like, I don't know, it's like 25, 30 years ago when The Urge was like huge and popular in St. Louis. But he's friends with all the guys from 311, and I saw them play there so long ago. And then all of a sudden, like now, like 30 years have gone by and they've got like 20 albums and they play all these big venues. Like when I was in the military, I actually saw them play live on Guam. I was deployed and was on Guam and I heard that 311 was coming there. And I'm like, man, I know those guys. Like I've been to like 20 of their concerts before, and I've seen them before they even sprung up, into the popularity and fame that they now have. But it was awesome, man. It
Yeah,
was a
that's
good
kind of
show.
like around here, like because I grew up in what you would consider the hardcore. Well, hardcore is short for hardcore punk,
Yeah.
but in the '90s, hardcore really mixed with, depending on which scene you were talking about or which area or locale or whatever you want to say,
Yeah.
did it melded with different styles of genres to make different styles of hardcore, to where hardcore today is not just, you just have to drop the punk, because even though it still has that punk sensibility, it is definitely something more, because like New York hardcore definitely had this like street like hip hop type feel, and like Boston hardcore was just pure violence. But and like, but around here in North Carolina, especially around 2000, like late '90s, early 2000s, there was just a few bands, especially in the Winston Salem area, that were like we would always see, which were the main ones was Undying, Prayer for Cleansing. Well, Beloved was a little bit later, but yeah, them and but Undying, Prayer for Cleansing, and then a band that you probably have heard of by now is Between the Buried and Me, which were members of Prayer for Cleansing. And Between the Buried and Me are now like one of the biggest progressive metal bands out there. You know what I mean? But back then they were just a band from Raleigh that we would just
Just go see.
hang out
Yeah.
with. Yeah. So, but yeah, that was a super cool time because it was super. I love the late '90s hardcore sound, especially what you would consider, I guess, mathcore now. But we just called it hardcore back then, but
Hmm.
like it was very dissonant, very much as you would think hardcore punk, but mixed with like Sonic Youth, like noise type stuff, and like more um just using dissonance as like notes that aren't supposed to go together,
like
like clashing
like
notes
tritones.
to make, yeah, and stuff
I
like
love
that. So
tritones. Like
like,
I like the way Primus used to use tritones. Like that guitarist was just like all about it. Like almost
yeah,
every song was like a had this one reoccurring riff that was just like two notes that just didn't sound good together, but for some reason he made it work.
yeah, because like the bands that like really started that style for hardcore was, well, one band called Dead Guy, well, a band before that called Rorschach, but the members of Rorschach started Dead Guy, and Dead Guy got bigger than Rorschach ever was.
Hmm.
But and then Botch, and then of course Converge, but Converge are fucking huge now. But like the but yeah, like you'll listen to Dead Guy or Botch, and then you're like, holy shit, these dudes are doing shit that bands are now in like 1994. Like, they were so ahead of their time. But like, I love all that shit. I mean, I love like the original hardcore shit, like Black Flag and Minor Threat and stuff. But like, I didn't. It wasn't of my era, so like, I respected it and I dig it, but you always really resonate with the stuff that you were coming of age around. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because even though you're really like, oh man, Metallica's awesome, but if you weren't a teenager when like Ride the Lightning was coming out, it's, by the time that I was in high school, they already sucked.
Yeah.
So
Man, I had a huge falling out with Metallica. Like I was so into them when I was like, I don't know, like 8, 9, or 10, I think.
mm,
And I'm not sure which
yeah,
albums had come out. I remember I think it was Master of Puppets. I was really into that during my like 5th grade camp. And I was like, man, this is like so amazing. Like the guitarist, I can't imagine, like, I don't know how a guitar works, but this just sounds cool how he's doing it. Like, and then when I
yeah.
started playing guitar, um, probably when I was, man, it's been so long. Like, I didn't get my first guitar until I was probably like 13.
Hmm.
And, and it was given to me by a friend because he had got a new one. And so I got his old one, which I actually still have, and it's hanging on my wall right up here. Um, and it's, man, it's a piece. It is something. I drew all over it, like put stickers on it and stuff. It's crazy. And, um, so I've got it hanging up there as like an homage of when I started, because of that friend of mine. He was like one of my best friends. And, um, so yeah, like the falling out I had was when I was already in the military and I was doing a lot of Napster stuff, like downloading stuff. And I was like, this is so cool, man. I love the internet now. The internet's a new thing. This is like the mid to late 90s. And I was like, man, it's so cool. That's when I started building computers and stuff too. Um,
So Lars, like you're the guy that Lars like went after.
basically but I had already bought all their albums. That's the thing. Like, or I had before internet, when their Black album first came out, like the local radio station did a live playing of it. Like they played the album before it was actually released to buy at the record store. It was going to come out like a
Yeah.
week later. And so they're like, "Hey, we've got this new Metallica album. We're going to play it for you, the whole entirety of the album. And then you can go next week and go buy it." And it was like a promotion thing. It was like the radio station was like, "Let's do this. Let's just play their whole album that's not even released yet." And so I did what I always do in my mindset is like put a blank cassette tape in the stereo. And as soon as they queued up the album to start playing, I hit play and record on the cassette deck, and I
Uh
recorded
huh.
that whole album. It kind of sucked though because I had to time it just right to flip the tape over. You had to like eject it, like flip it over because it ends at like however many, it was like 30 minutes on one side because it was a 60-minute tape. So
Yeah.
so I had to flip it over and hurry up and try to catch the rest of it. And there was one song that I didn't get the whole thing of. So it kind of sucked. But like I still ended up going out and buying the album, like, you know, probably not like a week later, but like it was probably like a year later or so. Um, but then several years later went by and the internet came out and Napster, and they started coming out with this huge thing. And like you said, Lars was all about like the whole like pirating thing and like stealing our music, and Napster is bad and whatever, like you can't bootleg our albums and get away with it. And I'm like, motherfucker, bootlegs is why you are famous today. Shut the fuck up and keep making music. And it pissed me off so bad. I was like, the only reason they are even famous is because for 10 plus years, people were buying their tapes or albums or records or whatever and making copies and passing it on to their friends. And you can't say they weren't doing that because that's exactly what they were doing. That's how I heard of them, was somebody gave me a tape that had one of their albums. It might have been Master of Puppets. And they gave me that tape and I started listening to it all the time. And like that's what made me want to go
Yeah.
out and buy
I
it.
did a report on that, and I had sources and everything. You know what I mean? And I got like a really high grade on that report about Napster. And I pretty much come to the conclusion that you know albums are not a band's major um, uh, profit
Yeah,
maker.
like they're
It's ticket sales and merch.
mm, yeah, it's like that's not like what they're living off of. Like they're living
Right.
off the touring and the concerts they play, the tickets, like there's bands nowadays, like one that I always look up to is Pearl Jam, because like they after all this time, like 20 plus years, almost 25, like they play for the fans. Like they still may have like high ticket prices and stuff, but they stood up against the Ticketmaster thing. When Ticketmaster
Hmm.
was saying like we need to like make as much profit off this as possible. Well, they were like, there's people that can't afford this, and they stood out and they went to court for it and stuff. And they were like, people can't afford these prices, but we want to
Yeah,
play
that's
for
when
them.
I started really. I mean, I listened to some not like more underground bands. Like I remember. I mean, I grew up listening to like a band called Zayo, and actually coming from like Christian music actually, because like the and but I had been to some concerts with some buddies that, because we thought that's how concerts were, but we had seen like Counting Crows and we saw Weezer, and they were always really expensive. We would save up to go to these
Yeah.
concerts. But then when I was like, I looked and I was like, oh man, Zayo is playing. And then so we looked up the concert. It was at this place called the Brouhaha in Winston-Salem. It's like this small bar or whatnot. And the tickets were $10. I was like, $10 to see Zayo? Zayo was like everything to me, even though that to me, they weren't like this underground band with like, I mean, they had a large following, but not, to me, they were bigger than they were. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
So, but the cool thing about, because at the time they were a Christian band, and the cool thing about the Christian scene at that late 90s, early 2000s is because a lot of it was hardcore and metalcore and like something to do with the hardcore punk scene. And hardcore punk scene is so accepting that I would go to Zayo and see Converge or Coalesce or like, so it opened so much to other styles of music because my parents were a little bit more strict, and I knew that I can find way crazier like death metal and like metalcore shit at the Christian bookstore than I could ever that like
Oh wow.
a band like Korn or Limp Bizkit are doing.
Is it because like
So
those
I was
bands were like so like they were in the media a lot more? Like they were like they're like front page of like magazines and like
I I think it was just because for some reason hardcore punk was the outlet for Christianity at that time,
oh
and
okay.
it was more I guess you would consider like more liberal Christianity because like a lot of those bands were not like anti-gay or anything like
Hmm.
that. Like they were pretty like there's a ska punk band called Squad 50, and they had a song called, and they're from Georgia. They had a song called "Our State Flag Sucks." but but anyway, but yeah, they and it opened all this other stuff because of that. To where if I was just listening to Corn and Limp Bizkit, which I mean, I have nothing against Corn and Limp Bizkit, but you know, they definitely weren't as crazy and heavy as like some black metal or death metal and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, but like Zayo aren't a Christian band anymore, but only one member of the band is Christian, and that's like a new member. So most of the members have given up Christianity,
Wow.
but they're still playing, and they still fucking rule, man. And they so and they even have an album like I always like flub on names of shit, even if it's something I know, like while I'm trying to talk about it. But they have an album that is produced by Steve Albini, which produced In Utero by Nirvana, and
Hmm.
he produces a lot of he produced like the Pixies and stuff. I love his production style because it's super raw, and I'm definitely like there's a I'm definitely down with like recording live versus overdubbing. I mean, overdubbing is easy because you can record the drums and then record the bass. That way, you can schedule out what you're doing, and if the guitarist fucks up it, but all the bass tracks are laid down, then only the guitarist has to like do shit
Yeah.
over.
Yeah.
But recording live and like all the band members playing at the same time
Yeah.
just has a fuller
Yeah,
sound
and there's like
that
a
you just
there's like a
won't.
purity to it. It's like it's not pure in the essence that it's like perfect, but it's pure in the idea that like, you know, this is the raw them and they are all performing in sync. Like I used to go to like a ton of live shows and I always thought it was great when you could tell like some bands are so skilled that when they perform live you can tell how tight it is. Like if they're right in, if they're all like in time with each other and they're like, they just, it's like they're doing it without like any effort at all. And they're like so succinct and on time. And like, it just sounds perfect to you. And you're in the crowd and you're hearing it. And they're all like playing, you know, and it's a weird raw purity, I think, that comes with like live performance. Like, that gives it this I don't know. I miss it actually. Like I used to go see a lot of bands play all the time and like I do like that live sound and especially like when you listen back to like recordings of live bands like you can hear like you can hear like little flaws here and there and that kind of just adds to it. Like it
Yeah, I hate when there's a band that when you go see them live, it just sounds like a louder version of what's on the
yeah,
CD.
yeah, yeah,
I can just turn my radio up in my car and do
yeah.
that. You know what I mean? Like, you want to see something more. something
Yeah, exactly.
that's
Like there's a lot of bands I think that do a lot of extra stuff too that like you'll never hear on an album, like never hear
mhm,
recorded. And when they play live, they'll play like the songs and they'll play them well. But like in between those songs, those things that they do that are like just weird little like side the like the guitarist will start playing like some weird little riff you've never heard before, and then like everyone like comes out and they all start like beating on drums and stuff like that the staff have like brought out on stage, and you're like, what the hell's going on? This isn't part of I've never heard this before. And they're like that's a performance. I think they're doing something different to engage the audience, and I think that's pretty cool. I always like that. Like, and some bands I've saw in small venues have done things that are like so different that everyone like all the like the guitar starts playing like a riff, and then everybody
mhm.
else is silent, and then he plays like the same note. He'll play one note for like the longest time, and you start to wonder what the hell is he doing? Like, and it's just like one note, like it's just going like and you're like, it starts to get kind of annoying, but you're like, what is going on here? Like, why is he doing that? And then you notice he's doing that, and then he's like chugging a beer the whole time. And he's like, and then he's like, doesn't stop playing that note. He's like finger picking while he's like drinking a beer, and he drinks the whole beer down, and then he sets it down, and then he starts to play, and everyone in the band like picks up right where they left off on the song, because it was like maybe like in the middle of a song and they stopped, and it's just like, wait a
Uh-huh.
minute, it catches you off guard. You're like, what is going on? This song was going and they stopped, and then he starts playing this one note.
Have you heard
It's crazy.
My Bloody Valentine?
I've heard some of their stuff, but not a lot. I think you told me about some of their stuff before, and I hadn't had a chance to
Yeah,
go through and
yeah, because there's a because they would play again. I'm flipping on it. Like because they would play a song, right? That's nor they have a part in that song that they call the Holocaust section, which is not a reference to the terrible thing that happened in Germany, but a reference to like before, like Holocaust, like like zombie Holocaust. It just
yeah,
means like a cacophony of like the apocalypse,
yeah,
basically is what it means. But the and it's them like kind of like making all kinds of racket and noise, right? But live, they that goes on for like 30 minutes, that noise, and it just gets crazier and crazier,
wow,
and then like to the point to where it's just this wall of sound. And like if you don't have earplugs, like it'll make your ears bleed. It's just like static, and let's just like literal a literal like hellscape basically. And
it sounds terrible.
but yeah, the song is called You Made Me Realize, and like the normal song is just like 3 minutes and 46 seconds, right? But a live version is like 10 minutes long or even
Man,
more, or like 20, 30 minutes long, because of them making all that noise. And then after a certain amount of time, they just go right back into the song like nothing happened.
wow.
Because that's not the end of the song. That's like the middle,
Hmm.
you know. But because their whole thing is they use so many guitar effects and whatnot to where it makes this like sea of
Yeah, like all these
n-
levels of like vibrations of like frequencies that are like going through the air, that it's just this huge like wall of sound that's just like coming at you, and you're like, it's like almost like impossible for like the human brain to even with our ears and our human brain processing all the information as we're hearing it. Like it's hard to separate out all of the different frequencies when bands do those kinds of things. So it is just kind of like a
yeah,
wall of
yeah, and
sound.
he uses Jazz Masters and Jaguars, which have a longer not a whammy bar, but it's a tremolo bar,
Mm.
right? So it's not going to like do dive bombs or anything. You can just kind of like waver it out of tune and whatnot. So he can hold it and like be strumming, so he can like be playing a chord and just like taking that chord out of tune a little bit and stuff. So there's these parts to where it feels like it's like a tape slowing down and whatnot,
Oh,
and
wow.
it's really cool. Like he does a lot of like really interesting, unconventional things with guitar that are pretty awesome.
Yeah,
So
experimental.
yeah, because you could probably look up, you maybe realize on YouTube and see that, but it's not going to be.
How it is live.
Yeah, actually, Billy Corgan said like, because it said a cacophony of sound that lasts at least 15 minutes, and Billy Corgan said it's one of those things where it was full volume, and at least for the first 3 minutes it's like, oh, okay, this is kind of cool, and then you're like, this is too much, I wish they'd fucking stop. And then at about 7 minutes you're like, this is actually kind of funny, and in about 10 minutes you actually start to finally fucking get it. And like like you kind of go through this like wave of emotions or whatnot,
Wow.
which is, and those those sections reach like over like 130 decibels.
Man, that sounds kind of
So
like a psychedelic trip, you know? Like you don't sometimes it gets like intense, you know, like and you're like you're in this realm of everything is all cool and whatever, and then you kind of reach a point where you're like this this is pretty cool, and then like 10 minutes later you're like this is pretty intense. Like I don't know what's going on. Am I real? You know, like am I alive? And then like, 10 minutes later you're like, wait, this is fun. This is kind of funny. And then a few minutes later you're like, oh, I get it now. Everything makes sense now. Everything is coming
ha-
together.
have 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 you ever seen Christian Shaw as riding a horse or heard that?
No, what is that?
Well, Kristen Shaw, she's like a comedian or whatnot, but she kind of, before she was kind of famous, or not, well, she's not famous, but before, she's been into some voice acting and whatnot that you probably recognize her voice. But there was like this stage thing that her and another guy was doing, and they were like, okay, this is our a bit we call Christian Shaw is riding a horse, and he starts doing this like little thing where he's like, Christian Shaw is riding a horse, Christian Shaw is riding a horse, look at her riding a horse, and she's like trying to pretend to be a horse, and it was kind of like an ad lib thing, and like he just does it for like 30 minutes or whatnot, and people like once every time it comes back around that Christian Shaw's riding a horse, like people just like, after a while they're like, this isn't funny, and then it comes back around to this is funny again, to like like you just go through these like to hate to love to
Like a cycle, you know?
yeah.
Yeah.
But
Oh man. All right, hey, it's we're getting we need to take a break real quick, folks that are listening. So stay tuned, listen to these words from our sponsors. Yeah, right, as if I get any sponsors. But um everyone hang in there. We'll be right back and we'll continue this conversation. This is Matt with a special announcement. We're not taking a break actually from this episode. I had to go in and splice it so that we could save time because the conversation went on for quite a while, and I want to keep these episodes short. So if you want to hear the continuation of this conversation, it'll be in the next episode. So stay tuned for that. Follow us on social media to get all the info. And if you need to email us, it's wormholemanifest@gmail.com. And the website is link.tr or linktree. So it's linktr.ee/wormhole manifest. And it has all the links to our social media. So please follow us give us some suggestions and recommendations or whatever that you would like to hear on the show. If you would like to be on the show, contact me through DM and we can talk about whatever info you want to get out there. If you would like to make a podcast, check out anchor.fm. And I'm supposed to do like a sponsorship thing with them, but I'm trying to figure that out. So stay tuned for that too. I'll probably try to figure out how to add those into the episodes. So with this episode, there was no commercial break. It's just going to end, and you can follow up with the continuation of the Matt and Chase conversation on the next episode. Thanks again, guys, for tuning in. We will see you next time.